Hello and welcome to the December 14th weekly JupyterLab call. Today we have 21 people on the call. And if you just joined, please find the meeting minutes in the chat and please sign in if you wish. There are two sections in the minutes, one for the regular agenda. And if you have a circa 5-minute sort of update, just add your name and whatever you'd like to discuss there. If you have something a bit longer, please add it at the bottom in the additional discussion section so that we could dedicate a bit more time to it. But why don't we get started? The first person on the agenda today is Fred.
Hello, everybody. So couple of announcements on my side. There has been a new announcement of a new Jupyter community workshop that will be focusing on the notebook file format, so or JSON stuff, or maybe something else, depending on the output of the workshop. So I linked there the blog, and there is on the blog post like more details and also the form to apply for the workshop. So if you are interested, or if somebody in your company is interested by that subject, feel free to apply for it. And the workshop will be, I didn't write it, it will be in Paris, and it will be between February 28th and March 2nd next year. So that's for the first announcement. The other one is I found sometimes to go back to working on a version of the RISE extension for JupyterLab. So a RISE extension has been done by Damien on the classical notebook. Is very popular, but there were no version up to now for JupyterLab. I opened, I think last year, a PR. The decision was to make it a separate Python package, and so I went ahead and released it as a separated package, and it's also stored in a separate repository because I needed to upgrade like Reveal.js and stuff like that. If there are time and not too many bullet points, then I could do a demo in the additional discussion point. So those are for the announcement. So just the status on JupyterLab 3.6, it has been a bit stalled for doing the release. The only feature missing is the one about the announcement. Thanks for people that have reviewed it, especially Mike. I hope I have taken all the comments into account. So the idea is that does somebody wants to look at it, or is it okay and can we move on, and could we start doing the beta release? Yeah. And regarding 3.6, other than that, then there are still some fixes to be done on the CI. So, but I think it doesn't block starting to have the beta, like, because if, as usual, if we start to have the beta this week, that means that we are gonna have the final for the end of the year, because of the 1 week between beta and release candidate, and then an additional week for final release. So there are still time to fix some of the CI issue. So yeah, that's my first question. If you want to do a review about the announcement one, don't hesitate to set yourself as requesting PR, or if you don't have the right to do that, then writing a comment on the PR. I should place the link for the PR. I will do it later, but that gives space for people to comment.
There were some questions in the, let's see. So is there remote participation for the workshop?
So for the workshop for now, the idea is to try to have as much as possible people in person, because like the dynamic of those kind of workshop is really better if people can really meet. Just for example, due to the shift, I was amazed, like for the Jupyter Lit workshop, like Nick woke up very early and to attend like after his night. But I think it makes the workshop more productive if people can be in person. But if there are lots of requests, then of course we can set up something remotely. And there is always also the backup plan due to the COVID threat that may hit us.
Did you have a recommendation for this issue that you linked, that Min opened, about the location for workspaces settings, or did you just want to raise it as a conversation for people to chime in on?
Yeah, but the next point, thanks, Dorian. Then yeah, that's more for people to have a look at it, especially because that code has been around for 5 years, I think. So as I was not so much there, and I mean, I'm a bit less comfortable with the configuration, path handling, and stuff like that in the Jupyter stack. So yeah, I would appreciate if people that have a bit more experience, especially in that kind of discussion, can wave in to just say it's okay. I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, knows what he's doing. It's just to provide him with a feedback for it.
Okay. So before this gets lost, is there anyone on the call who is able to review the announcement feature? That's the little pop-up that gives you Jupyter related news, basically.
What
I would
needs
love-
to be reviewed?
Oh, good. Jason's saying something. Both Jasons are saying something.
You see, this is it. Sylvan thinks this is a Jedi mind trick. The question, just be quiet and someone will fill the silence. I love it. Cool. Thank you, Jasons.
I was going to say, don't count on me doing it, but I would love to look at it if I end up having some time.
Okay.
I mean,
And
my
just-
question was, a meta question was, what about it needs to be reviewed? Because I've seen some of the code reviews that Frederick has done so far, but I'm not sure what remains to be reviewed.
Well,
But-
actually, it's interesting that you asked that. I think there are a few angles, right? There's the user experience, there's the code review, and then there's the security stance that we might be taking, the privacy stance, etc. So you being a member of the security group and the JupyterLab group are well positioned to look at it in that regard. I think we're just looking for consensus to merge this feature. And if we have it, great. And if we don't, and we need to think about it more, well, then we release a beta without it.
Yeah, especially because the implications are quite wide, because it's going to be the first time we'll open the door of reaching our user directly. So it's the more eyes have a look at it and try to figure out if it's the proper way of doing it, then the better.
Okay. I've done a little bit of review on kind of the phrasing and language used in it, but I can take another look at that today.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Great. And then the last point you had here, will we have a call on December 28th? Why don't we just take a quick vote? Maybe use a thumbs up or thumbs down if you think you will make it to a call on December 28th. Santas don't count.
It means I will be busy celebrating Christmas.
For me, there's no thumbs down. Oh, okay.
Oh, there
Alex
is. You
found
just
the
have to
thumbs
hit
down
the.
somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it seems like we had one thumbs up and a whole bunch of others that were roughly speaking no. I propose we cancel it. Does anyone strongly object?
And if you do object, just show up and have a
Yeah, I
conversation with
won't
whoever's
host
here.
it. You can
It
do
won't be
it.
recorded.
Yeah.
Come and talk. The channel's still open.
I'm with Jason W. I actually thought there's a non-zero chance Vitor was proposing to show up in the Santa hat. Yeah,
As long as it's not recorded,
right.
then only the people who show up get to know whether I was there as a Santa Claus or not.
Okay, I will remove it from the Project Jupyter calendar after this call, but let's consider that call canceled. Shall we move on? Jason W., you are up next.
Oh, yeah, sure. I just had a quick plug for Jupyter Scheduler, which my team at AWS worked on. We announced a commercial product based on it at AWS reInvent last month, but it's been available as open source. We just held off on announcing it until this morning when the blog post went out. So I pasted a link to it in the chat. It's also in the notes. Thanks to everyone in both within AWS and in the broader community who helped us to get merged in. Jupyter Scheduler lets you run notebook jobs unattended, either as a one-off or on a recurring schedule. And you can also customize it to run based on a custom backend. So it's pretty neat. I hope you like it. If not, file some issues and we'll get it improved. Jason Grout still has X showing on his, so I think he disapproves of it. But the rest of you are cool.
Congratulations. And thanks for the announcement. Okay. Eric Gentry, you are up.
Hey, so I talked to Darian about this in the notebook meeting a little bit, but I have improvements that I am almost done with. So these are improvements for the extension tutorial docs. So I basically just want to kind of merge these improvements and make it public so that the current docs are not broken for people and the experience is good. So I just wanted to kind of check on what the best way forward would be. Based on what Darian was saying, it looks like I should be merging into master. So that's what I'm going to try to do going forward here on my PR. So I had a couple of questions. I'm just wondering, I guess the first question is, I know how to build on 3.6x. I know how to build the docs thanks to Frederick's help. I was able to get rid of the JavaScript API doc build process, so that allowed me to build locally. I'm just trying to figure out on master what would be the process for building the docs. Should I just for the purposes of previewing locally, should I just be pulling that environment.yaml file over and building another running the same build process on master?
So last week I did a git clean so that I knew I had a complete blank slate. I even deleted my local user yarn cache. And then I did the recommended build process in the contributing file, the pip install -e and all that. And then when I had the JLPM tool installed after the pip install, I ran JLPM docs and it did work for me in a clean Conda environment with a clean repo and a clean yarn cache. Okay. So if you try that set of, kind of blank slate and it doesn't work for you, whatever errors that are generated, I think raising that as your issue in the JupyterLab Gitter and or in your PR, and then maybe tagging me and whoever else is already participating. Okay. It's probably your best path forward because that should work. Like it worked for me.
That's good. I'll give that a try. And then just in terms of, I guess, like, I'm just trying to understand, because my goal here is to merge this in and get these improvements out there. Do we need a full release of the lab to get these docs improvements published, or how is that going to work? Because the current extension tutorial right now if you search JupyterLab extension tutorial, read the docs stable is what comes up. So I'm wondering, like, do we need to have a full release of the software in order to just make this docs change, or how does that work?
So stable will probably, the next stable will be 3.6, right? It won't be 4. It won't be what's in master. So if the content of your changes is applicable to both, then writing it for master and then having a backport PR for 3.6 is sensible. But Fred has his hand up and he knows more. So
okay.
Actually, I don't know more. I just realized because a user asked a question about the announcement feature, the notification feature, because actually the configuration makes it so that as soon as we created a branch like a 3.6.x branch, and then read the docs move stable to that branch, although there is not yet any stable version. So, and I even don't know how to switch it back. I think that's where the option in read the docs are a bit flaky for specifying exactly which branch you want. But yeah, so for now, like what's stable is really the 3.6.x branch.
Okay, so yeah, I guess then I would plan to target both. So I guess I'll try to do master and then do a backport to 3.6x, and then hopefully that would then show up in stable, right?
well, I mean, the other thing is if you've already got it working in 3.x, maybe don't create extra work for yourself. Maybe do target that branch.
Okay.
And instead of backporting, forward port it.
Okay.
Right, because like if you've already got it working and your workflow is like not going to be disrupted by targeting this branch and it's going to land in front of users faster, then maybe it does make sense to write it there but bring it forward.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. And so you're saying then, Frederick, that is it the head of 3.6x is what's showing in stable? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks, guys. Really appreciate the help, Frederick, Darian, and Mike Krasowski. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for working on this. This is gonna have big impact because I mean, this is how we get third-party extensions. Vidar asked a great question. Maybe that's configurable, but apparently it's not currently configured this way. If anyone understands the read the docs environment configuration and knows how to do this, yeah, we probably should be using tags for this purpose because it really is not the case that 3.6.x is stable. That's actually incorrect. Okay. Alex, you are up.
Yeah, just a quick update for me. I can share a little bit more information once the recording's over, but my bandwidth has been reduced for specifically dev work on JupyterLab in the upcoming months. So I am no longer working on the Launcher 2.0 work for now. So if somebody really wanted that and wants to jump on it, they can, and I can help kind of go through the design. I'll try to get that commented on the issue soon because I did do a lot of work on kind of designing and getting it figured out how I was going to do it. But yeah, not going to be working on that at least for the foreseeable future. So just that's more of an FYI since I had kind of said that I was going to be working on that. So after recording's over, I can give more details what's going on. So just a short update for me.
You sure you don't want to tell YouTube? All right, cool. Thanks for the update. I imagine what this means is any substantial change to launcher is gonna probably land in 4.1. Yeah, unless somebody takes it up and has time and wants to spend Christmas and the New Year working on that, but presumably that's not gonna happen. Cool. Okay. Mehmet, you're up.
Hey everyone, I have some updates on JupyterLab desktop. I released a new version 351-1. Even though the version bump is minor, this is a major upgrade to JupyterLab desktop. It comes with a UI remake, and now the main dialog has a custom title bar. It shows the server status on top right, and also an app menu that you can reach to like preferences of the application. And it also shows a control box on Windows and Linux to close, maximize, and restore, and so on. And this version also has support for teams, light team and dark team, and also system team, whatever you have in the OS is applied. This team is applied to dialogues plus the JupyterLab UI that you have. So they can be kept in sync. And I created new dialogues using the Jupyter UI toolkit library so that we have a modern modern UI and consistent UI across the dialogues, and it works really nice. And I also introduced a new Jupyter UI mode, which I call web app mode. This basically loads JupyterLab in a embedded browser without customizing anything, and this resolves a lot of compatibility problems we were facing. And another major upgrade here is the Electron upgrade and the security upgrades included in this release. Till now, we didn't have context isolation, and it was causing some security risks. Users could access to the main process by running some JavaScript in the browser context. And now the isolation is introduced, and it is a secure app. And also with this release, we are upgraded to latest JupyterLab, which is 351, of course. And I published a Jupyter blog post on these changes, including some of the recent changes we introduced as well to increase awareness. And special thanks to Mike for code reviews and other help. And also Fred for the Jupyter UI toolkit. Thanks, folks. That's all.
Thanks a lot, Mehmet, for that desktop version. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really good news. Thank you. Any questions or comments from Emma? Okay, cool. Gabriella, you are up.
Hi, everyone. So I was just wanting to inform you that unless anyone strongly opposes, I wanted to create this new repo on JupyterLab on UX research. So focused on UX research and not design. I know there's a repo in Jupyter about surveys, but it's just sort of for the results of the surveys. I would really like to create a space where anyone puts all documentation about our personas, who uses JupyterLab, so we can all document it as we go, the user journeys, information about how to do some testing if ever people want to do quick and dirty user tests, different ways of creating a study, and then all the study examples, of course, and the results. Yeah, I know there's this repo, but it's on Jupyter. It's like design focused. I'd like it to be research focused and to make a difference between user research and the design assets. Like we could have that repo is really good to create a design system and put the design assets, but I think it's going to be something very different from a UX research repo.
There was also this that ended up not really getting much traction, the JupyterLab design repo.
Yeah, or using that and renaming it. I don't know who can rename because it's empty.
Yeah, there's some work that happened on the file system, but other than that, yeah, you're right. I think what do we normally do? Do we normally just have a Team Compass issue proposing a new repo and we vote on it? Or I think renaming this one seems reasonable, especially because there's almost certainly not that many incoming links to it. So how about this? Is there anyone on the call who objects to renaming JupyterLab /design? Yeah, what would you like to call it? UX or research, or what are you thinking?
UX research.
Okay.
It's to
Is there-
differ from UX design, like to make it. And plus, what I see that's already on this repo is actually more UX research than design. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of, and so that's then we have in the design space of Jupyter really the real design assets. Like if you want to create a drop down, what is the best way to design the UI? That's a different.
I don't see any reason with doing this or not doing this, to be honest. I just caution that the design influence in this space is small relative to the developer influence. So, just trying to have more consolidated spaces for designers and more general places might be helpful if we're going to seed this. Otherwise, if you're going it alone, just do your thing, yeah. I think some of this was originally motivated by having a more general space for designers in Jupyter as we tried to figure it out, but we weren't really able to sustain it.
Yeah, that's the idea, is to have a more general space for designers, but actually everyone, it's like, I mean, if you're new to the project, for example, and you are wondering, well, who uses JupyterLab? Well, you could have a place to go and read about the personas and what are their main user journeys. If you're wondering if something is used, specific feature is used or not. And it can be a place that even developers contribute to also, because they know a lot about the users and it can help everyone. So
I agree with you. But I think that a small repo isn't the proper place for some of that stuff. I mean, some of this gets back to another sticky situation, which is the Jupyter website, right? Like the Jupyter website should say who uses this and what tools are out there too.
It would be a lot. It would be a lot to put in. I mean, real, like a lot of documentation. It's not just like a few sentences on who uses it.
No, I think make a safe space for yourself and your allies and stuff, and get that going. Whatever's going to make these repos succeed, make it happen.
Okay, so as a next step, I think unless there's an objection, why don't we rename this? And if it turns out to be a place where only you find yourself doing stuff, Gabriella, and it ends up being frustrating, we can figure out how to improve that situation. But as a starting point, that seems reasonable. And yeah, that's a good question. Tony's asking, is there stuff in the main JupyterLab repo that can be moved into there? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But Mike appears to believe yes, so that's cool. So I'll ask the question again. Anyone object to renaming design to UX research? Okay, cool. Can someone on the call who has the right to please do that? Otherwise, if not, I'll do it after the call. I see Florence's hand up. I don't know if you meant to say something in this part of the conversation, but if you do, please go ahead.
Hello, it was not related to Gabriella topics. It was to make a small demo on an extension. I just write it in the minutes. Perhaps it's not updated right now.
Oh, okay, great, cool. No, I see your bullet point there. Thanks. We have 2 more updates before yours, and next person is me, so I'll make mine quick. I've linked to a PR that creates a new type of JupyterLab plugin specifically for swapping out the JupyterLab application level service manager that connects to the REST and WebSocket endpoints and allows you to replace that with your own service manager. This has been a request that we've had because the only way to do that currently is to actually generate your own Jupyter front-end application and set it there. And you could do an application that's basically identical to JupyterLab and has this one difference, but that's quite onerous. Now, you've always had the ability, if you were either willing to cast the application to unknown in TypeScript and then cast it to any, or if you were writing your extension in JavaScript to just do app.serviceManager equals foo. The downside of that is if anyone else's plugin had loaded before and they were subscribed to signals, then they would basically have code that's never going to get executed based on an old service manager, but you still could roughly pull this off. And if you go to the PR, you'll see that there's a back and forth primarily between me and Eric Charles, although I think Jeremy chimed in at the end as well, about the security implications of this. So I think we'll wait for a representative of the security group to take a look. Again, maybe Jason Wall can. And if not, then we'll actually have a conversation in the security group's next call. I personally believe there is 0 new security vector. Eric disagrees, and I don't want to have a 2-person back and forth infinitely on GitHub, so hopefully other people can chime in. I don't want to color your judgment too much, but it's obvious that each of us has a point of view here. And that was one of my announcements.
Yeah, just to clarify, the next security meeting is currently scheduled for next Tuesday, the 20th at 8 a.m. Pacific, although I'm not sure how big the turnout's going to be. I will be there, but others may be on Christmas break. So we may have to revisit this in the new year.
Okay. I will try to make that call because I would like to get this PR in sooner rather than later. But I also think even if I disagree about the security implications, raising a security issue is something we ought to take seriously and discuss fully. So, Vidar?
Yeah, I just would in general want PRs at this that don't reference any issues to have some sort of motivation in the OP. It's just like, why are we doing this? What will this gain us? That also makes it easier for people who are coming in.
Sure, our initiative.
Or put it in the PR thing itself. It's just like what's the purpose of it, and what is the weaknesses of the current thing.
Oh, I mean, I did write a top level comment there, but perhaps it's not sufficient to answer your questions.
Yeah, because I think I know what it will do, but unless I have a firm idea of what the goal is and what the problems are, it's hard to say shouldn't could we do this instead? Or you said you were going to do this, but the PR does that, so it's a lot easier to review if you have such a piece.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to write a bit more description on the motivation and what I believe this provides people. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a meta comment, so not directly applicable, but yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, if anyone else has any comments about the service manager, now's the time. If not, I'll move on. Okay. The other thing is that, as many of you are aware,
Jason has a question, Dorian, sorry.
I just wanted to point out, a couple of years ago, I almost wrote a plugin like this or considered this because we were overwriting the JupyterLab application and we needed a different communication mechanism because of how we were embedding it in the larger context, etc. And we came to the conclusion that it really did make sense to override the JupyterLab application to provide a different service manager. That I don't know it. That it just, if you're customizing things at that deep of a level, it made sense to go ahead and just override the JupyterLab application rather than punt it to a plugin. So I'm really curious what your motivation is for this.
Well, now we have something that we didn't have a few years ago that demonstrates to me a really compelling use case, which is Jupyter Lite. It would be really cool if Jupyter Lite just had a plugin that swaps out the service manager for something that runs entirely client side without having to be a whole other application. If Jupyter Lite really can be a spin of Lab with a set of plugins, and this plugin means you don't have to talk to the server, that seems pretty cool to me. And in general, I don't have a really imaginative view of this other than to say most other pieces of JupyterLab can be swapped out with plugins. And this one has been special and difficult to do, but it doesn't have to be. So I don't have like an open and shut, like really compelling case. It's just, it seems like low hanging fruit, and it seems like I can think of one use case that would benefit from it. You're on mute.
Yeah. The flip side of that is, I just scanned your PR. It looks like it does put some restrictions on the extension that's doing this. So it's not the same as just a vanilla extension overriding some random part of JupyterLab. Like it is treating this extension somewhat special, with special restrictions.
Yeah, but we already have prior art for that. MIME renderers are special extensions too.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, in the notebook call today, we had a discussion about perhaps we need to define a notebook plugin, because sooner or later, we're going to want to give people a way of knowing whether their plugin's compatible with both Lab and Notebook. And we don't currently have that. So there's probably some flexible thinking in this space that we're going to do in the coming year. Vidar, what are you thinking?
So you mentioned the RenderMind plugins already exist, but that's a special kind of plugin that is built on top of the regular plugin system, right? What we're saying here that this is a magical extension that the app
it's not
knows
magical.
about.
No,
right?
well, yeah, I mean, the app has special case, but the app special cases lots of things like deferred or disabled, or we added
But the
all
service, does this plugin need to, is it life cycle out of sync with the other extensions is the main question.
Yes, absolutely. It happens first so that no other extension code has to be modified. And the way
yes,
we
but
do it,
do we have? Yeah, so we're special casing it in the app is basically what we're saying, but it uses the same lifecycle and dependency tree that a normal extension would use.
nope, it doesn't have dependencies. It doesn't. So it takes a minimum, it takes all the optional Lumino application plugins attributes and it removes them. It says they're not available to you. All you can have is activate. You get a Lumino application, not a Jupyter front end, not a JupyterLab, and you provide this one token. It is special. It is weird. But then again, someone who says, I want to use a whole different backend is doing something special and weird. And they're doing something presumably pre-application. They're not saying, also give me a command palette. If you want to add something to the command palette, do it in a separate extension.
I wonder if there's a way to encode the specialness of this extension. For example, maybe there's a setting for the app, well, but we don't have the settings plugin available either, right?
It's its own type. It has its own type, and it is like the whole thing is at least enforced on a TypeScript level, right? And we can probably put in some developer-friendly warnings and stuff like that. Like suppose you write the JavaScript version of it or something, maybe we throw in some warnings that say, hey, look, you have dependencies here, this isn't going to work, something like that maybe. I propose, because this is not going to move until we talk about it next week anyway, that we move on because we're running a bit low on time. Vidar, is that okay with you?
Yeah, but just forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so I was gonna just quickly update people on the executive council election. It happened, and between the results being tabulated and an announcement being made, there's a phase where all 6 members of the nascent executive council need to disclose their interests so that we can resolve whether there are conflicts of interest. Once that's resolved, we'll be making an announcement, and I'm pretty sure that announcement will be on Monday. So in case you've been wondering, hey, December 4th came and went, where are the results? That's where they are. We're trying to ensure that we don't have any conflicts of interest between the 6 of us. Yeah, that's it for that. Vidar, you're next.
Yeah, so my question was basically about the release cycle for 4.x. Is there going to be a corresponding breaking release for JupyterLab server? Is there anything there that needs to change for the 4.x? I haven't been paying attention, sorry.
Does anyone know the answer to that?
I'm not sure to get the question. Like,
so
yeah,
is there, I don't know what the current major version of JupyterLab server is. Is it 2? Is it 1?
Oh yeah, it's 2.
Yeah. Does it have an RC face? Does it have any breaking changes that is queued up to come out together with JupyterLab 4?
Actually, I only have open one PR that I put in old that would remove an endpoint, because in my refactoring of the extension manager, I changed the logic for the listing endpoint, the ability to say whitelist or blacklist some extension, because now everything is on the server side, so the front end doesn't need that endpoint directly. But I did not merge it, and so as far as I know, we can move on like this and not have breaking change at the JupyterLab server level.
Sure. Yeah, because I was just asking because of that pull request that I have opened for, that you asked me about, Frederick, about the preferred dir changes.
Okay, but this one is backward compatible with all the try catch.
Yes, so it's meant to ideally come out before the Jupyter server changes come out, because well, this one will work with the older version of Jupyter server. Somebody just checks the new location of the preferred dir on the contents manager in Jupyter server, and they don't have the latest version of JupyterLab, it will just be ignored, right? Or JupyterLab server, I mean. So it's hopefully not going to be an issue, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't needing to backport anything or do some extra.
No, it should be
error
fine to
recovery.
just merge it on master and then do a new release with the releaser directly on master. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Florence, you're up.
Hello, so I will make a small demo of an extension that we've been working on the past 2 months. It's mainly a prototype for a theme editor. So the idea is to be able to change some of the parameters of the interface. So for instance, you can, with this color picker, select a color for the layout, and then there is a logic to distribute among different CSS variables. So for instance, you can select this green. You can also play on the font size, for instance. And also, I have implemented some fonts family in order to be able to change. So it's not working this time, but it's working. It's because of the Zoom, I think. So the idea is to be able for a user to play with this different variable, and if the user is happy, then the idea is also to implement something to export the theme. So it's not made right now, but I will do it. So that's it. If you have any suggestion of things that can be added or changed, please feel free to propose. Thank you.
This is awesome. Can you, in the chat, not to chat, sorry, in the minutes, write the name of the extension so people can install it and play with it?
Yeah, I can. For the moment, it's only on my repo, but
oh, yeah, and you're still sharing your screen. Sorry.
Sorry?
You are still sharing your screen right now.
Oh, sorry. Is it okay?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I can share. For the moment, it's only on my repo, but we will migrate soon to.
Have you published a version that's installable, or is it only installable from source right now? We may have forced her.
For now, it's only installable through the sources. There has not been any publication.
Cool. All right. I think just from the sampling of times something like this has been raised and also reactions we're seeing now, people are into this. So thank you for demoing it. And I don't know, anyone have any questions, comments?
I love that they're finally getting it. I'm sure there's always things that can be improved, but just get it out there and have people play with it and see.
Yeah.
Do it crazy teams, right? This isn't something that you will use every day, hopefully, anyway. So
yeah. I mean, what I would love it is if, you know, there's like a class somewhere where somebody assigns, write a JupyterLab plugin and somebody figures out that they could do this and game the system and both create a plugin and not do any coding.
Yeah, because the main thing I would say that the main thing that is, once you have a theming system UI there that works, the very next thing you will want is an export button, right? so that you can share your awesome theme with everybody else without having to, you know, be an NPN master or
Yeah.
ideally know about Git or anything, right? That maybe there's a file. I don't know how themes are best shared other than through NPM packages or Python packages, right?
Yeah.
So if there, that might be a more central thing to improve if there is room for improvement. But yeah, I just know that once this is out there, the very first question people will have was like, cool, how can I share this team I made with my friends or my team or whatever?
Right. Tony.
This is great. I'm excited to see good UI for this. I have taught classes where you just write raw CSS and just change the theme and their CSS classes. They're very fun. It's people who get really excited about being able to change the UI. Yeah, for a while, Deathbeds has had like a real lo-fi version, which we've always had, which we always do. But this one has fonts in it, which seem to be a challenge. But there's also, I guess you can call it a primitive configuration system for this, for the themes. So basically what we're doing is putting like a style CSS sort of syntax in the Jupyter config files and sharing those around as JSON, and that helps with the configuration here. But yeah, I don't know if this helps with thinking about the problem, the configuration part a little bit.
Fred?
Just to mention that the next step for the extension is to have a server side that will reuse the cookie cutter to try to produce an extension that will be set up with the value that the user has chosen. But yeah, that leaves still open the question like, how can I still edit that version?
Cool. Again, so Florence, thank you so much. Okay, so she's linked the repo. If you are chomping at the bit to play with it, go check it out there. If not, I'm sure it'll be available in an installable version soon. Okay. We have 2 additional discussion items. One was about dev meetings over the holidays, which I think we decided we'll meet next week, but not the week after. And perhaps next week we can make a decision about the week after that. The other one is an announcement. The JupyterCon talk deadline is tomorrow, anywhere on Earth. And it says parentheses currently, but you know, as far as anyone knows, it's tomorrow. So if you're thinking about it, please submit. Yeah, Fred.
Jason, do you know if there is already a date for a tutorial proposal? Because for now, like that deadline is for talk, but do you know if there is already something or?
I have asked about tutorial submission because my team wants to put that in, but I haven't heard anything about even opening for submission for proposals for tutorials. So yeah, currently the deadline is December 15th. It may be extended, but don't quote me on that.
Wait, are you saying that the talk and poster deadline is December 15th, but the tutorial, you can't submit a tutorial right now?
Yeah, that's the status for now.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, tutorial submission is not opened yet. The last I saw is that we want to get it available sometime in December, but we're running out of time in December.
Do you know if once you submit a talk, can you edit it?
Yes, you can. I was about to say that. Yeah,
So-
once you submit a talk, you have an account created. You can log in and edit it until things get closed.
So if you submit, so if you want to put in a talk, submit it before the deadline tomorrow. And if that deadline is extended, which who knows, might be, you have the chance to update your talk, but get it in by tomorrow, the current deadline. And if it happens to be extended, you can like continue workshopping the description and stuff like that.
That's a great place to stop the recording. I'm going to stop the recording right now. Brace yourselves, everybody.